Okay, it's late, but I'm about to upload this video, and then I realized the edit, like the way that Zoom edited my video, is trash. So you're gonna see two of me and one of the guests, and so that's really weird. I figured out how to make that not happen for the third video. So the first two videos will have that issue where like you see two of me and then one of the guest. I just wanted to like warn you, it's not the cutest, right? It's not what I wanted it to look like, but it's what it looks like for now. And so, sorry, I don't know. But yeah, enjoy the video. Enjoy my conversation with these wonderful, wonderful women. I've already done 3 so far. I have like 8 more, maybe 10 more. I think I might have asked someone else. So that's what we're gonna do until the end of the year, is just like post these videos. So be patient with me. I'm figuring out the technology. But I really, y'all, these conversations, 10 out of 10, wonderful. So enjoy. Bye. Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Pink Couch Conversations with me, Dio, your host. I am here with Lataysia. And yeah, Lataysia, if you want to introduce yourself, you can share your name. If you want to share your law school, if you don't have to. And I would also like to ask you, like, what is your favorite thing about being a woman in the legal industry? If you have one, if you don't have one, that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Lataysia. I go to UCLA. I am a 3L there. So I live in LA. In terms of like the favorite thing, I don't know. I feel like in law school, I don't know if there's like a divide between the men and women in our schools. I don't know if I have like a favorite thing. I feel like I feel the same, but I will say like I'm involved with like the Women of Color Collective, and so I think like being around other women and being able to like talk about, sometimes I guess there are like men in class that say some things and it can rub you the wrong way. So I guess being able to talk to women and have like especially a group of women that are also people of color, I think it helps. So
I
yeah.
agree. Love that. I love that. Well, Lataysia, I want to also ask, like, what is your story? Like, where are you from? Like, who is your family? Like, before law school was even a thing, like, who made you? Who brought you up?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm originally from Alabama. I went to undergrad in Alabama as well as at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Went to the same school for my MBA, and then I decided to leave. In terms of like my family and my upbringing, I don't know. I grew up. My parents were married until I was like in high school, so two-parent household for the most part. And I don't know, Huntsville was like a small town, but it's like one of the bigger towns in Alabama. So it's weird. So it's like a lot of people have heard of Huntsville, even if you are not familiar with Alabama, because it's like Space and Rocket Center and they have like engineers and military. So it's like known for those things. For lawyers, not really, not so much. I don't know. I didn't know a lot of lawyers growing up. I didn't really meet like an attorney firsthand, like talk to them personally until I interned somewhere in undergrad with an attorney, a Black woman attorney, actually, that I'm
Oh,
still very close with. Yeah. So I think like having that experience with her definitely helped me. But yeah, that's where I'm from. And then when I left Alabama, I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. I lived there for 3 years. And then I moved to Atlanta and I lived there for 2 years. And then I came to LA. So I feel like I've had a bunch of different experiences, but LA is still so different because everywhere else was still the South. And so
yeah,
LA is a little different. Yeah.
right. I think I have that in common because I came from the South as well, undergrad Atlanta, like from Texas, moving to the West Coast. I'm like, what is going on? So that's a big point of.
Literally.
Sounds like you took a really long gap year between undergrad and law school. One, you always knew you wanted to go to law school, and then like why that decision to take such a long gap year?
Yeah, definitely. I think I took like 6 or 7 years off actually. So I think for me, I think like when I was in school, I thought I was gonna go like straight to law school. Like I didn't even know I was gonna get my MBA, if I'm being honest. I think I was like, okay, well, I got into this program. They're gonna let me do my MBA in a year and a half. It's not gonna cost that much. I probably want to do corporate law. So like let's just go ahead and do the MBA. And then that turned into, okay, well dang, now you just got more student loans. So maybe you should work a little while and then pay off, and then because I didn't get a full scholarship for the MBA, so it was like I still had loans. I had loans to pay back. So I'm like, okay, well maybe you should work a little while, save up some money, experience life. And so I was like, okay, let's move to Raleigh. And then I ended up getting one job in Raleigh, but then I got another job, which was IBM. And I was like, well, okay, I keep getting promoted. I'm making some money. And it just became harder and harder to leave, honestly. And then I moved to Atlanta. And then I started liking Atlanta, but then I was like, okay, you're getting old. Is this like trying to just like have fun and enjoy life? Like you've traveled, you've experienced things, like go to school, because eventually I wouldn't have went. Like I was 29 when I started. So I'm like, if I would have waited even one more year, I don't know. So it was like it was like me psyching myself out and just like stalling every single year, coming up with a new excuse. And then I was like, no, you need to go to school. Like, just go. So yeah.
Made you choose LA? Like that's a big, like you said, like a big jump. Why UCLA?
Yeah, definitely. So I think when I was applying to schools, like even the way I narrowed it down, it was like, okay, I honestly, it was like, I only want to go somewhere that's ranked higher than number 50. I want to go somewhere where it's going to be warm. I want to go somewhere where the people are like more diverse. I was big on that. And so like I applied to some schools in the South, but I was kind of like, I'm not really trying to be here anymore. I want to experience new things, new people, new mindsets per se. And so then I kind of narrowed it down. I think I was between Georgetown and UCLA because I'm like DC, LA, both very nice places. But DC does not have the warm weather. And DC still is diverse, but it's not that diverse to me. I think the crowd I would have been in would not have been diverse, if that makes sense. I would have went to DC and gravitated towards the same people. And so I was like, okay, you think you want to do entertainment. LA is very nice. The weather is very nice. And it's just like, okay, just go to LA. But I don't think I thought I was gonna get into UCLA. And like
Oh,
I didn't think it was possible. Like I did not think it was gonna happen. So when I got the call, I was like, wait, who? Like yeah, so I think it was kind of like honestly, you know how you want to do something, but you talk yourself out of it because you don't think
yeah.
it's possible. And so when I finally got into UCLA, I was like, I can't move to LA. Like what? And then I was like, no, you're moving to LA. So
Oh, that's wild. That's so. I didn't know that about. I didn't know that. I don't think we talked about that because that's kind
yeah,
of how I got Berkeley. Like I was like, I can't get into Berkeley. That's not what happened for me. Like, and then getting in, it's like, oh wait, this is real now. Like this is
right.
actually. Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Okay, so how has UCLA been? Like, how's your experience been? Was it what you thought it was going to be? What is stressful about it? What's fun about it? Like, what has that been like?
Yeah, definitely. So I think so like the part of going to law school that I think people don't consider is like, yeah, you're dealing with law school, but you're also dealing with like even if you meet new people and they're great, you may also meet new people that aren't great. You're going to be in a new environment. There's so many like new things. So like not only do you have law school, which is new, but you're still like meeting all these new people and doing all these new things. And so I think when I first moved here, especially LA was so locked down during COVID. Like my 1L year was COVID. So like I was online. It was all my classes on Zoom. I had two friends that moved here before me that like weren't related to law school at all. So I hung with them and stuff. But I think just like living in LA during the pandemic,
Mm.
it was still so many people though. Like it was just so new. It was so many people, so much. It's such a bigger city. I live in downtown LA too, which if you're familiar with downtown LA, it's a lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot. But yeah, I think I was adjusting to like, oh, I'm in law school. I'm in this huge city now. I'm around people that they act completely different than like anything I'm used to. Even the conversations, some of them, I mean, obviously I had friends who were, whatever, but people just think differently out here. And so I think I was adjusting to like, dang, like, am I not as culturally aware as I thought I was? Am I like, am I like people in the South that people don't like? Like I had a lot of thoughts to deal with in law school. So it's like I'm dealing with law school, being on Zoom, and also like having like an epiphany about myself at the same time. So I think it was LA brought a lot of things out of me, but good things, good
right.
things. So UCLA in general, I think most people at UCLA also have very like liberal, free thinking personalities. And so I think overall the experience has been good. But there's things UCLA could work on. It could still be a little more diverse in terms of Black people. It could still be a little more accommodating in terms of like admin and things like that. But overall, for what I want to do, I think it's the perfect school.
Yeah, I love that. So, like, the actual action, not the actual action, the actual being in law school is
Mhm.
that, like an easy, just like, yeah, I'm here, I'm learning, blah blah blah, or has it been like stressful, hard, difficult? Like, what has been that like academic?
So I think also taking time off from school, which is why I always tell people when they ask me like, okay, how were your gap years? I'm like, okay, 1 or 2 gap years. All right, that's fine. Six, 5, 6, 7, like you have to get, I was not, this sounds so bad, but I didn't want to learn again. Like
Yeah,
I was excited. I'm like, oh, I'm going back to school. But then when I got in it, I was like, oh, I don't want to be here. Like I'm used to working. I'm used to making my own schedule. It's just different. And now, like your 1L year, you come in and they're like, you have this class at this time, this class at this time. You need to study for this many hours a day. And I was like, I don't like this
yeah,
lack of control I have over my own life right now because I was older and I had been in control of my own life for some time. So I think 1L was definitely hard for me, even it being on Zoom. Like it was definitely hard. Like I did not do my best 1L year. I can admit that. Even 2L year, I got a little bit. Like it's been going up
yeah.
slowly. It's still not, it's going up, but gradually. So yeah, I mean, I think 1L has definitely. I think law school in general was definitely stressful. But I think for me, my 2L year was more stressful than my 1L year because my 2L year, I was on law review and I was like on all these different boards and I was taking like 17 credits one semester. Like I was just doing a lot. Yeah. And so I think 2L for me was more stressful just because I was so involved that I was like, I don't even know what to focus on. Like I have no idea what to focus on. And then by then I was kind of like, oh, well, like my 1L year, I tried not to go places. And then by 2L, I was like, well, I'm bored. I want to travel more. So I'm like trying to balance the schedule, these board
Right.
meetings, these classes, going places with my friends. I had a boyfriend by then. It was just a lot to balance. So I think, yes, law school has been stressful, but my 3L year, I'm just trying to like keep a positive mindset and like do what I can, and what I can't, I don't do.
Right. Right. So do you feel like you are 3 LOLing, as people say?
To an extent, but now I'm like the co-president of our entertainment law association. And so I think like having like a president or like a chair like title, it does add some extra stress because like I have to do a lot, but I have another co-president. She's great, she's helpful. But I think overall I'm only taking 3 classes right now. So it's kind of like I definitely am more in control of my schedule now. I will say that.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So you've talked about entertainment law quite a bit. I'm really curious how you got to wanting to do entertainment law. Like, what are your career aspirations? Like, what does that look like? One, how did you get there? And then, like, what does that look like in the future? If you don't know, that's completely fine. We're all figuring it out. So, yeah.
No, definitely. So I think for me, if I'm being honest, like I said, I thought I wanted to do family law at first. Like I was when I was in undergrad, even from like being a child, I knew I was going to do family law. I worked at a family law firm with the Black woman attorney I was speaking of. She did family and criminal. It was
Mm,
too much for me. I was just like, I don't know how you emotionally do this. So like that wasn't going to work for me. And then I thought I was going to do just like pure corporate, like M&A type stuff or something like that. And that's why I got my MBA. And then after I took some time off, I did more transactional work at IBM. And I was just like, okay, yes, I get this, I can do this, but it's not fun. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like, yeah, I can do it, I can get through it, I'm good at it, but it's not fun. And so I was like, okay, let's start combining things. And I have friends around me that are doing different things in the entertainment industry. I'm meeting new people in Atlanta. I'm like, wait a minute. And then when I started doing like, I was like, okay, I had this idea to do my own YouTube. And I'm like, wait, you could do entertainment and law. You can combine them together. And then I was like, yeah, this is like perfect for me. Like, I'm actually excited about being a lawyer again because for a while I lost the excitement. So yeah.
I love like finding like where your passions are, and then like finding a way to make the law fit for you instead of like find where you fit in the law. No, no, no. Like I feel like you have to curate your career. You really have to curate it.
Yep.
Um, so have you done? So what were your summers like? What was your 1L summer like? Your 2L summer like? What did that look like?
Yeah, definitely. So my 1L summer, I actually I worked at Apple, but it was remote as well because it was still COVID. Yeah, so I worked at Apple. And then I also worked at an entertainment law firm. So like it was like a weird situation because I guess I technically only should have been working at Apple because it was full time. So I worked at Apple like 40 hours a week, and then at the entertainment law firm, like maybe 10 to 20 hours a week. It just depended on like what they needed. And then, but my 1L summer, I thought it was really fun. Even like being at Apple and like, even though I was on Zoom, I was meeting with so many different people, just like learning more about their culture. Apple's culture is very great from what I could tell internally. Like I really liked it. And the entertainment law firm, of course, I liked it because he was doing like music stuff and TV stuff. And so being able to see that and actually look at those contracts and edit those contracts and sit in meetings and stuff like that was perfect for me. And then my 2L summer, I actually I worked at in Big Law as a summer associate in their corporate department. I did get to do a few things related to entertainment though, because their M&A is mostly still entertainment M&A. And so yeah, and I got to do one like pure entertainment thing too regarding TV. But I think for me, even though I did like a corporate summer associate, I think I've always still been kind of torn between like, dang, can you do corporate and entertainment? Should you split it? Which way do you really want to go? So I think doing corporate this summer kind of helped me realize which side I really want to be on.
Right.
But yeah, like I still like transactional work. I don't want to be a litigator, but I just think I enjoy working with people more than companies. I think
Yeah.
like ideally, so I know you asked about my future. Like when I think of my future self, I want to work with like the actual talent. Like I
Yeah.
think that's better for me. So yeah.
Right. I love that. That's okay. That's good because I think I'm on that same track as well. Like I think you kind of do have to get some kind of experience from the corporation, and then you take that experience that you get from the corporation to the people, because it's like
Yes.
hard to do that on your own, but like use their resources to
No,
like
for
normal everyday like artists and musicians and actors and actresses. Like that's kind of the path that I want to go as well. So it's really interesting. It's cool to hear that you also want to do the same thing. You talked a little bit about the differences about coming from the South to the West. How has that impacted your ability to form community at UCLA?
Yeah, definitely. And I think also my age probably affects this too, because since I am like a little older, I think I was like, I thought I was past that, oh, I need to make new friends stage. I think I was kind of like solid in my friendship group, if that makes sense. But I also realized that that's also not healthy either, because you meet new people, they give you new experiences, new mindsets. Like you need to always be constantly meeting people. They may not be your best friends, but you need to be around people that think differently so that they can introduce you to new ways of thinking, introduce you to new ways of just everything. So I think coming here and being in LA at the beginning, like I said, my 1L year, I was kind of in the house. 2L year, I started doing a little more. And then I think most of the people that I'm closest to right now from law school were in my law school section though, because we interacted the most. And so like even throughout 2L and 3L, we kept interacting. And so I think, and even through both, so I've definitely met people through that, through the Black Law Students Association, through the Women of Color group collective I was talking about, other people that are interested in entertainment. I gravitate towards them as well. So I think I built like a lot of different small communities. I have like people that are interested in entertainment, people that are Black, people that are other women of color, just like other friends, like, but they're like separate friend groups, if that makes sense.
Right, right. Okay, okay. I think so. I love that, but I also think that you have an interesting perspective that a lot of the like people interviewing don't have, and that you're a 3L. So you
Yeah.
kind of process a little bit. How has self care and like taking care of yourself changed throughout your 3 years?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think this is like a hot take, and people probably won't agree with this, but like I think for me, it's so crazy because my 1L year, I was so focused on school, right? Like, or so I thought I was. Obviously not like I thought, but like it was to a point where it wasn't healthy because I would get so burnt out. I'm like, oh, I'm just not studying. I don't care. And it's
Yeah.
like if I would have taken better care of myself, I would have never got burnt out, and then my grades would have been better if I would have paced myself. And so I know a lot of people say like go all in, but I'm like, you actually do need to spend time with your friends. You actually do need to call home. You actually probably do need to find that $200 for the flight or whatever it is and go home. Like it may sound like you can't, but you need to do those things so that you actually won't like have like resentment in you for like, oh, all I'm doing is school. All I'm doing is school. So I think now like 2L, like I said, I traveled a little more. And now this year I think I'm traveling 3 times this month. I'm going somewhere on Wednesday. Now, granted, it's a school thing, but like I'm still more open to just doing things because I'm like, I know me. And if I'm not doing things that I enjoy, if I'm not going out to eat, if I can't shop, if I can't travel like I want to, I'm going to have resentment against law school. That sounds so crazy, but like now I'm like, I do things that I enjoy, but I balance it. I know what I need to be reading and I know when I want to be outside. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, and that's like giving me hope because it's like I think I'm kind of coming into that era. I'm like, okay, this is not irresponsible. It's not irresponsible. It's actually like going to help me like sustain myself for the next 2 years. So I love that. Um, has you navigated being in law firms, being at Apple, being in law school? Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And what does that look like for you? How does that show up for you? And how have you like tried to curb that feeling in those spaces?
Yeah, definitely. I think in law school in general, I think especially I don't know where you were for undergrad, but for me, going to like in school and also being older and being out of school for so long, but then also like going to an undergrad that's not like Duke. Like you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I didn't go to a school like UCLA for undergrad or even for my master's either. So I kind of had like, and some of it may have been real, but like when people would ask me, "Oh, where'd you get your MBA from?" or something, and they're thinking I'm gonna say like I don't Dartmouth or something, I don't know, and I'm like the UAH, like the school you probably don't know. And so I think in my mind, I was thinking people were like, oh, like, okay, yeah, you went to school, like whatever. Which some people may have been doing that, but most people were not. Like it was just me in my head thinking, like, oh, you're all smarter than me. You went to these schools, or even like hearing people talk about the South will make you think about things you didn't think about, which because I think everybody knows people have jokes about the South and Alabama, especially. And so like I feel like even when I was telling people I'm from Alabama, I'm like, I have to like preface it by being like, oh, but I also live here. I also live here. Cause like in my mind, I'm like, okay, now you probably think I'm this country, whatever, whatever. And so like I think I definitely had imposter syndrome of just like, dang, they probably are assuming I'm not as smart as them, which I mean, whatever. But like I was overdoing it. Now I'm not gonna say I did that the entire 1L year though. I think it was short lived, if I'm being honest. It was at the beginning. And then I started hearing more people talk and I'm like, nah, like no. Like like actually I'm just fine. I'm doing just fine. Like a lot of people have names behind them, but it doesn't mean much. So yeah, I think if you interact with a few more people and you start listening to what's really going on, you'll realize that in law school, honestly, everybody is starting at zero. Even this past summer when I was working at the firm, okay, like people can come in like, oh, my dad is so and so, and I know so and so, but okay, but you yourself are starting here today, just like me. So, yeah, so I think you just have to like be realistic and be like, okay, check yourself because they don't know anything more. They want you to think they do, but they do more than you. So you get over it. But I had it, but I got over it.
Look, I love it. Yeah. Is that why you created your like Instagram page or YouTube channel? Like, was that a part of it? Was to kind of like show people like we're all the same, like we all like you can deal with it? Because like if I can deal with it, you can deal with it. Like, what was the purpose behind your Instagram page and your YouTube channel? Can you also say what it is? I don't think I've mentioned what it is yet.
Yeah, so my YouTube is just life with Lataysia, and then my law school Instagram, I guess, is Law and Life Official, and then my personal is just it's Lataysia. But so I think yes for that reason, but also when I started my YouTube and Instagram, I think it was because I was like looking for videos on YouTube of people to like be more transparent and more honest about their law school journey. And I was finding a few people, but then they still weren't honest. I'm like, okay, I understand you not wanting to tell your LSAT score. I get it. But then I kind of don't, because then why do you have a channel? Does that make sense? I was just like to a point where I was like, okay, you're being like 70% there. I need 100%. I need somebody that's going to be like, in school, this will happen. And so I was like, you can do that. Because I have no problem. I don't care. You can ask me anything. I'm going to be very open about it. So I just felt like people were not being transparent enough about the law school journey, especially as someone who is Black, especially as a woman, especially as someone who is about to move across the country. I'm like, you need to hear like the truth. And people were like sugarcoating things. And I definitely get being positive. I get it. Like you don't want to scare people away, but I feel like you can also prepare people. Like so that was my big thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think even like for me, I was seeing people being transparent, but it was like, oh, I came from like a Harvard, right? And I'm like, wait, I'm not coming from Harvard. Like, can I do what you're doing? Because like we're not on the same level. Like you are here, I'm here. How am I gonna get where you are? So I feel like for me, my seeing like people who are not from Harvard, Yale, Stanford, like who are not from the big tops, get into big top law schools like a UCLA, like a Berkeley. Like I'm like, oh, okay, so it's possible. Like share your LSAT score, sure, but like it's just I feel like for me, I really needed to see people who were on my level and who like understood where I was coming from. So I completely agree. I love that you had that same intention and that same desire because that's why I started mine as well. Because I just felt like no one's telling the truth. Like no one is showing the reality. I think a lot of my first year like difficulties came from people selling me a dream about Berkeley.
Yeah.
Just tell me, like, well, I wish people had just told me the truth so that I can make an informed decision. I would have came to Berkeley anyways, but it just kind of, I think it's harder when like your expectations are X and then your reality is Y, and then you're like, wait, was I crazy? Like, was I the one who asked the questions? But people just, I think like, you use the right word. Like, people don't want to scare you away from law school, but it's like, be honest, so I can make an informed decision. So I completely agree. We're on the same page there. You talked a little bit about being on law review. It's really interesting because I noticed a lot of people have said like, oh, if you're doing transactional corporate work, law review isn't necessary. But I'm wondering like, what was your decision in being a part of law review?
My grades. It was my grades. It was like complete transparency. It was my grades. Also, again, knowing that in this legal world, it is still elitist. Like even when you graduate, the lawyers are a lot of them still have the same mindset. Like they want to see certain things. So I knew that people that were on law review, I know it looks good. Like I know it looks good. And also I don't. So I had a mentor. So at UCLA, we have like writing advisors that helps you with your 1L like writing assignments. And so my mentor was actually on law review and she was a writing advisor. And so she was actually my writing advisor. So it kind of worked out. And I remember her saying like, oh, well, I'm a writing advisor. I'm on law review. Don't do it. It's very complicated. It's very complicated. And I feel like that was a challenge. Oh, I can do it. And then when my grades ended up being bad, I'm like, okay. I mean, it is what it is. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to be a writing advisor and I'm going to be on law review. It was a bad decision, but a good decision. That's why also 2L was so tiring for me because I was doing a lot, but it was because I felt like I needed to make up. So like I felt like in that summer, so like we found out about writing advisor and law review and all that, like right before UCI, which is your 1L summer. And I thought, okay, I need things on my resume so that people, when they see the GPA, they're like, oh, well, she has this, she has that, she's worked before. And so I think during the summer, I was like, okay, I made law review. I'm doing a writing advisor. I'm taking all these classes. I'm going to get a job. And then I got an offer. And then like by the time the third week of 2L came around, I'm like, dang, but I'm still on law review. Like I got the job. I still gotta do this.
Dang.
I still got to do this. So law review in general is just like, I will say I do agree though. Like I know I have a mentee. Well, she's a friend now, but like she was asking me about law review and her grades were like above median. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. And I was just like, I personally would not tell you to do law review because you know you want to do transactional and your grades are not below median. And so if that's the case, kind of like, why would you? Like for me, I would say your answer is why would you? Unless you're just a person that wants to be able to say you're on law review. But I think if those things are true, if your grades are okay, you want to do transactional, I don't see the benefit in it. I know how to blue book now though. Will I ever use that though? No. So it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that. That's such an interesting perspective. I never thought about like doing law review for that purpose of making up for like bad grades. I never thought about that. That's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure someone is like helped by that for sure. I also wanted to ask you how like being a Christian has affected or influenced your time at law school. Like, have you become more faith oriented? Were you like, like, what does that look like for you in law school?
Living in LA, I feel like people try to take me away from that every single chance. And I'm just like, yeah, no. Like the more I listen to you talk, the closer I get to God. Because I'm just like, I know for me, my faith has got me through a lot of things. And so even if you like, I mean, you in LA specifically, you do have a lot of, just like I mentioned, free spirits, very free spirits that believe in a lot of different things, a lot of different things. And I just feel like for me though, I'm like, well, that's not going to keep me grounded. And so you can like, I've had conversations with people about God not being real. I've had people talk to me about that at UCLA, and I'm like, okay, I hear you, but even if he isn't real, it's keeping me grounded. So like I don't need to listen to you. Like it's helping me right now. Like even no matter how you feel about it. So I think for me, being a Christian is still like very important to me, probably even more important. I do think that though, being in UCLA, being in LA, I do think it's made me more like culturally aware of like even different religions, different people, different mindsets, different spirituality and things like that. But I don't subscribe to them. I understand them now, but I'm still a Christian. I still feel the same way. So like my beliefs are still the same, but I understand people more now. I understand your beliefs are this now. Like I get it. I'm more I won't say tolerant, but like I just understand more. I just understand better. But my faith is the same.
Right. Yeah, no, for real. I definitely relate coming from the South. I think that I think the South and like the way 2020 went was like a very like faith transition for me. And so being in Berkeley, where like even in Berkeley, I think in Berkeley that liberal mindset is also very pervasive. It does kind of force you to be a lot more open. Way you handle conversations on a day-to-day basis. I feel like I really haven't had conversations about my faith in law school. I don't know why. I feel like I just don't, like, it's not something that comes up often at our school, but I don't know. I definitely agree though. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 more questions for you. One is, you mentioned a little bit earlier that during your 2L, you got a boyfriend. I'm wondering, because a lot of people talk about dating in law school and how we should not do it, but it seems like you're sustaining that. So I really want to ask, one, how is having a partner in law school? 2, how did y'all meet? Because I love a good love story. I love a good love story. And how do you manage? I mean, when we first talked, you talked about having different lifestyles. Like he's not a lawyer, he's not a law student. It's very different. So those 3 questions: how is having him in law school? How did y'all meet? And how do you manage different lifestyles?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start in the beginning. So we met in Miami during my 1L. Maybe it was like right before 1L finals, I want to say, something like that. I don't remember, but it's been like a year and a half. So yeah, that sounds right. So we met in Miami. He was there for something with work. I was there with some friends, but then we all ended up having mutual friends. So we met in Miami. He lives in Atlanta. Of course, I was familiar with Atlanta. So we started talking. We realized we lived in the same apartment complex at the same time, but had never met before. And then I don't know, like it was just from that point on, we've just been talking ever since. And so I think in terms of our relationship, I think it works because he's very busy. I'm not gonna say he might be, the man's busier than me. And So because he also was in the entertainment industry as well, he has to travel to LA a lot, and I go home a lot, obviously, and I have to stop in Atlanta, and I have friends in Atlanta still. And so I will say I think the long distance part of it works for us because we live in places that the other one has to travel to often. If he lived in like North Dakota or something, I'm not sure it would work because why am I in North Dakota? But so I think that works. I think the fact that we're both interested in the same thing, like I think that we're both like entertainment minded. We go to a lot of events together and stuff like that. So that helps us be able to like we network together, but we're also spending time together. So that helps. And I think also because he is busy, he
Mhm.
gets it. Like he's not like on me, like, why didn't you answer the phone? Or what were you doing? He's like, oh, I was busy at that time too. So like that's not something we struggle with. I do think though, even though he's not in law school, a part of me is like, but that's bad because you don't get it. Like you
Uh,
don't things are always like the law school is hard. And in his mind, he's like, it's hard, but like, not in a bad way, but he's like, it's hard. But like people just don't think like no matter how many times you explain it to people, they're like, but you got in. He'll be like, but you got in, you go to UCLA. And I'm like, yeah, I got in. But yeah, and I think so people just like they try to look at it so positively, and you're like, yeah, whatever, whatever. It's hard though. Like I can be as positive as I want, but there are still very hard days. And so I think dating someone that's not in law school, it's just hard to explain law school to them. And so I think but I still wouldn't want to date somebody in law school because we would just complain all day. Like we literally, like, what are we going to talk about? Like we're just going to complain all day. So I think that's why it works because like we have a similar interest with entertainment, but it's not legal. His side of it is not legal. He has no interest in that at all. And then like we make time for each other, and we're like there for each other, so it works out. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so my closing question for you is what would you have done differently if you could start your 1L year again?
Oh my God. I would have, like I said, taken more time for myself. So therefore I could have had a better schedule. So my grades could have been better. Because I think as much as people I know, I feel like every time somebody like listens to someone talk about law school, it's like your grades, your grades. But it's real. It's a reality. Like your 1L grades they're really a big deal. It's not like in undergrad where like if your freshman year you did bad, it's like by the time you graduate, like, oh, I'm gonna be in this situation. Like I'm not applying to jobs until my junior year. That's not how law school is.
Uh,
Your 1L grades are very important. I don't care what you want to do. You can want to be government, public interest, big law, and wherever you want to do, your 1L grades are so important. So I think I would have went in with a better like personal mental health plan and like a better like scheduling techniques. I think I was so used to just like I said doing what I wanted to do. When
right.
they give me a schedule, I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll make my own schedule. And then that didn't work out. So I think I would have taken 1L more. I would have made my life more structured in
Okay.
terms of like balancing everything out, but it would have been more structured. So therefore when I wouldn't have been so overwhelmed, like everything was so overwhelming. And if I would have just like take my time and
Right.
plan this out, I wouldn't have been so overwhelmed, and then I wouldn't have went crazy during finals like I did.
Absolutely relate to that like frantic like, oh my gosh, wait, do I even understand what's going on in this class? Which exam is tomorrow? I barely like that. I That's me. Well, thank you so much, Lataysia. This was amazing. I feel like we talked about a lot of really, really good topics and talked about like the culture. Like, I don't think people talk about enough, like how much the environment that you're in will affect the way that you operate in law school. Like going from one coast to another is not a small thing, especially if you're doing it by yourself, like without like people. So I'm just appreciate you talking about that and bringing that up because not a lot of people can relate. So we're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Yes, that
No,
is
thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. Like
it.
I enjoyed the conversation, so thank you so much.
Thanks for saying yes. I always appreciate because you could have said like, "Nah, who are you? You're weird."
I knew who you were. Yeah, I feel like that's the thing about being like a Black law student too. I feel like we somehow all like end up knowing each other in some way. I guess because our experience is so unique, we kind of have to all know each other. Yeah, yeah.
All right, this was great. I'm gonna close it here.